Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 583 podcast. I'm your host, Gijo Ortiz, and I'm here with my boy Cam. And today's going to be a little bit different than my usual stuff. So, the Puerto Rican Day Parade is June 11th this year, and I see a lot of comments like, why do they fly the flag so much? Why do they carry it everywhere? And I'm here to learn you something.
Let's learn.
Let's go. So, most of Puerto Rico's history, they were kind of in control of someone. So, the first time that they flew the flag was in resistance to Spain. So in the 19th and 20th century, Spain controlled Puerto Rico, and the Spanish government prohibited the display of any flag other than the Spanish flag. That means the original Puerto Rican flag, known as the Lares flag. Can you pull it up? A lot of people don't know this was the original flag, the flag of Lares, and it symbolized the fight for independence, and it was not allowed to be openly fly or openly displayed rather. In 1898, Puerto Rico came under the control of the U.S. and as a part of the Spanish-American War, under American rule, the display of the Puerto Rican flag faced restrictions as well. The U.S. government considered the Puerto Rican flag as a symbol of rebellion and resistance against American authority. And then there were times when the flag was basically suppressed, and anyone who had it would basically face repercussions. Uh, I think it was up to 10 years in prison to just own a flag.
Really?
Yeah, like if you just have it in your house, that's it. You're done.
And you said that they would do random searches?
They just whenever they wanted,
Uh-huh.
they would just go through because again they were trying to occupy. You could turn it. I just wanted to show them the flag. Um. So obviously, when your whole existence is essentially, hey, we want independence.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's a crime to fly your flag. Obviously, there's going to be some pride in it.
Mm-hmm.
No, hold on. I have a lot of notes. I never have notes, so you should be flattered. Uh, in 1948, that's kind of what they actually made it a law, and it was the U.S. appointed Puerto Rican government. So essentially, U.S. picked mayors, governors, whoever ran Puerto Rico at this time was handpicked by the U.S. So it was Americans essentially, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever was on the American side. This is called Law 53, and this is the law where you couldn't fly the flag, you couldn't own the flag, you couldn't have the flag any place visible. That's just how it went. You couldn't know, no matter what, it would have been a crime. All right. So this is what the information pulls up. The purpose of the law was to suppress and control any perceived advocacy or support for Puerto Rican independence or seditious, I don't know how to say the word, activities. It gave the government broad powers to investigate, detain, and punish individuals who were deemed to be promoting ideas or actions that could lead to the overthrow of the government or the destabilization of public order. Under Law 53, it was illegal to display or possess any flag, banner, or symbols associated with the Puerto Rican independence. It also made it a crime to sing any song, give any speech, or engage in any activity that would be interpreted as advocating for Puerto Rican independence. Violators of the law could face imprisonment for up to 10 years. So,
And you said that was because they had a history of wanting independence from whoever was controlling them at the time.
which anybody would want that.
Right.
So,
right. But they wanted to suppress the morale of what the flag.
it was more like, so my best example with this is like what happened in the Revolutionary War.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is the people in the Revolutionary War were the British that came to America, and it was the British that were running.
Right.
Now, this is a little different because this is Puerto Rican citizens that are there, that they were their own island, then Spain took them over, and obviously you want to fight for independence.
Right.
And then the US took them over, and you still want your independence. But how are you going to have your independence? You're a small island.
Mm-hmm.
You end up getting just destroyed.
Right.
So what they were trying to do is essentially, and again, this is the 40s, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't have jet engines flying out over there, and they had stuff,
Right.
but Puerto Rico didn't have the artillery even close to what the Americans had.
Especially available at that time.
Yeah,
World
but again,
War II era.
yeah, but
Yeah.
even then, the only people was the Spanish American War were on there too. That's kind of
That's
when
true.
they took over first.
Mm.
Um, what can you do? You can't do anything.
Right.
So the biggest, the biggest, what's a proper term for this? the biggest morale boost for a country is speech.
Hmm.
If people feel defeated, no one's, like, it's easy to control a population that feels defeated,
Hmm.
because they're not going to fight back, because they're like, we're not going to win. So little things like this are essentially
They
to
need to have
boost more.
something or somebody to rally behind.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it takes one person, it takes one drop to overflow.
Right.
um so I'm not going to go too deep into the to this right now,
Hmm.
just because off the top of my head I don't really remember a lot of it. But the first real incident was the Hayuya uprising. You don't got to pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Hayuya uprising was essentially uh, Puerto Rican nationalists. Essentially, they took over. I believe they took over a political building, and the U.S. government like attacked them. Like they dropped bombs on the city of Hayuya. And again, that's kind of over. That's kind of overkill. It's a small island nation that it could have been quelled. If you think about it, it could have been quelled just by the military going there. So
Hmm.
the military did show up. So the Puerto Rican National Guard was there, and they sent the army, and then they ended up sending bombers to bomb a small city. You know, still to this, though, I think up until I'm not sure how recently. Can you look this up? When did uh, when did America stop testing in Vieques? Right, so that wasn't too long ago. Vieques, Viequues.
June 2001.
So since the 1940s to June 2001,
2003, excuse me. No,
2003,
2003.
that's 20 years ago. The U.S. government was using like sites in Puerto Rico as just artillery.
Just shooting ranges, basically.
They were just dropping bombs.
Oh, wow.
They were just dropping bombs, like testing artillery.
Mhm.
Not nuclear bombs, thank God,
Right.
but you just destroyed a part of the. So Vieques is an island off of Puerto Rico, but it's
Hmm.
Puerto Rico.
Right.
So you just destroy the island. Just, oh, we're gonna test.
Just because.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's crazy, and people live there. So
Oh, no. People live
yes,
on the
people
island?
live on Vieques. People live on Vieques. Yeah. So obviously, when you have this up until again 2003,
Hmm.
you kind of get a little more pride. You know, uh, from my information, this is opinionated. I was born and raised in New York. My grandparents were born in the 1920s. So my grandparents lived through this. They lived through the sterilization of women that happened in Puerto Rico. That it happened all the way up until 1970. Um, they lived essentially in the time when it was a crime to fly the flag. But again, you're being controlled by a nation who, at the time, it didn't seem like they had the best interest.
Hmm.
Flying the flag was essentially like a symbol of hope. So 1940s, 1950s, whatnot. Um, are most of the Puerto Rican that are here now, most likely their parents came from that era and they started raising their kids here in America. So the upside was here in America, it wasn't illegal to fly the flag,
Hmm.
but it was still kind of frowned upon.
Hmm.
So, like, my family, we flew the flag like forever. Like, it till the day my grandmother passed away, we flew that flag. Again, she lived in that time frame. She lived in that era. She came here, I think, in the 60s or the 70s. And it was like, you want your independence. No culture would not want their independence.
Hmm.
So
So is this why you see like a lot of people fly it on their rearview mirror in their
so
cars?
that's hood rat shit. But that's essentially what it is. A lot of people don't like, a lot of the younger people, a lot of the younger generation, everyone now, they don't really know. the reason why we do it,
Mhm.
but I looked into it. 'Cause I was just like, I've never seen any other nation fly a flag as freely as Puerto Ricans do.
Mhm.
You know, so when you're if you're first, second generation, you know the stories. You know the stories of what your parents told you. Oh, we weren't allowed to fly the flag. We weren't allowed to do any of these things. Um, so you kind of ingrain that in your children. Like we live in Texas with the Texas flag. People fly the Texas flag the same way they fly the Puerto Rican flag.
Mhm.
I've seen people with Texas tattoos. Those are some wild tattoos. Some of them make absolutely no sense, but they got them. God bless them. Do what they got to do. It's kind of the same concept. Like you're proud of your heritage. You're proud of your
Where you
nation.
come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Texas was never restricted on flying their flag. When they came back to America, they were never
Mhm.
restricted on flying their flag. But Puerto Rico was. And the sad thing was Puerto Rico was restricted in their own island. So it's like you can't it's like being a kid and you go home and you can't listen to your music because your parents don't like it. And it's like,
Yeah.
why are you restricting something that just like they changed the Pledge of Allegiance? Like, I mean, the Puerto Rican national anthem, they
Mhm.
changed the national anthem because originally, and I may be wrong, and hey, if I'm wrong, somebody tweet me, please. Um, no, don't tweet me, Instagram. Yeah, let's not go there. Um, so I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought. What was I up to?
The national anthem.
Yeah, so they even changed the national anthem.
Mhm.
So back to my first point, the the first generation Puerto Ricans, they came 40s, 50s, 60s, and this was the generation that wasn't allowed to fly the flag. So it's kind of like you made yourself a marker, like, hey, I'm a Puerto Rican, and that's essentially how you developed your neighborhood.
Mhm.
Like, oh, this guy's Puerto Rican too, so let's stay close together, and we kind of build our traditions together. It's like the Jews in New York in I forgot in Brooklyn. I forgot which neighborhood it is, but they're essentially their own like self-governing town, for lack of a better term,
Mhm.
because it's their full community. So the stores are run by them. They have their own police, and obviously the Puerto Ricans didn't do that. But you try to bring a piece of home into where you move to, and that's kind of what that was. So you fly the flag. Hey, I'm a Puerto Rican. You walk in down the street, someone else has a flag. Oh, shit, you're Puerto Rican too. Okay, maybe we know each other, and if we don't know each other, we could stay close knit because who doesn't want to support their own people? Like we live here in San Antonio, people go to Mexican-owned businesses because they're Mexican. Uh, you have everything with Black Lives Matter right now, where they're let's support black-owned businesses. It's the same concept.
Mhm.
So
Is that why people, when they move to America, kind of gravitate towards New York because it has those pockets of your people, as opposed to going somewhere like San Antonio from Puerto Rico and you don't really know anybody here?
I think it is. Again, I don't know 100%, but it
Mhm.
does make sense because originally the biggest populations for Puerto Ricans was Florida
Mhm.
and Puerto Rico, and it's like with Cubans with Florida and New Jersey. So it's true, you want to gravitate, and not only that, like let's say you're gonna go from Puerto Rico to New York. You ask somebody in your family, you're like, oh shit, my cousin lives in XYZ. Try
Mhm.
to look around there because at least you have some sort of support system, because it's
Mhm.
scary to go from one place to another without knowing anything.
Right.
Now these are people who don't even speak the language. So in the 50s, 60s, they're coming from Puerto Rico, they're coming to the United States, and they don't know the language, they don't know the people, so you want to stick to who you know. It's comfortable, it makes it home, and then that's how a lot of things thrive. There's no way that it
Mhm.
won't thrive when you're with the people who support what you do.
Right.
Um, so our generation. So I'm third generation Puerto Rican technically because my grandparents were born in Puerto Rico. My mother was born in the States, and then I was born. So I'm third generation. But again, my aunts and uncles are old enough to be my grandparents. They were born in the 40s and the 50s, and my grandparents were born in the 20s. So they kind of still bring that heritage down because they were not heritage, but they bring that idea down,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why the Puerto Rican Day Parade, you see like anywhere that there's a large population of Puerto Ricans, you're gonna see the flags everywhere. It's not only a sense of rebellion because it's not rebellion anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of belonging. Like if there's another Puerto Rican there, you kind of feel a little more at ease. Like you don't feel like an outsider anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna fly the flag wherever you go. Mm. And the first generation that came here, they kind of passed it on to their children. But I'm sure when they passed it on to their children, they gave the explanation. Our generation never got the explanation. This I went to a school in New York. It was Luis Munoz Marin, which is, I believe, the first governor of Puerto Rico. So our school, like, they taught us Puerto Rican history. So we learned about this. We learned about like the suppression of the flag. We learned about, like I said before, the sterilization of women. Um, there was just a lot of scumbag shit that the U.S. government did, and a lot of the similar things that the Native Americans dealt with here, the the Puerto Ricans dealt with it as well. Obviously no concentration camps and things like that, or what are they
Right.
called? What are they called? The reservations, no reservations and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But still, I mean, what reservation do you need when you live in a small island?
The island should be the reservation.
Basically, you would think so,
Yeah.
right? But even when they came to America, they weren't given the best places to live.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in shitholes. Like realistically, they lived in shitholes. But that's was affordable at the time, and they built up those areas. They built up those nations. They built up those cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so first generation they knew the story. Second generation passed it down. It's like the third and fourth generation. They don't really know the reason, but they do it because it's what they're known for. It's what they're known to do. It's a part of home.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's more of you've seen it growing up, and you do it, but you don't know
you don't know the
the
reason.
the history behind it.
Yeah, like you do
Right.
it because it becomes habit.
Right.
It becomes tradition. That's basically what it becomes tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember, and I'm not trying to get political, but it kind of gets political. So even in the recent eras, like when Trump was running for president and everything like that, there was a lot of anti-Latino rhetoric going on, right? And I'm not saying it was Trump. I'm not saying it wasn't him. I'm just saying there was a lot of anti-Latino rhetoric. I remember me myself. I was here in Texas. I was over at a customer, and I started speaking Spanish. And the owner of the business asked me if I was afraid of being deported. So I thought he was joking. Obviously, I'm just like, no, I'm not afraid of being deported. I don't have any issues with that. He goes, but when Trump gets elected, this is what he told me. When Trump gets elected, he's gonna send all the Mexicans back. So I explained to him, I go, that's fine. I'm not Mexican. So he goes, but you speak Spanish. I'm like, yes, I speak Spanish, but there's other Spanish countries. And also, I'm a US citizen, so it doesn't matter. And I explained to him that I'm Puerto Rican. So this is an older man. I think this man had to probably be in his 60s, 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to explain to him that Puerto Rico was part of the United States. And it kind of like blew his mind. Like he was just like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, it's a territory of the United States. We're kind of independent, but we're still a territory of the United States. While I was finishing up at this customer, I go to give the guy his invoice, get ready to go, and he's looking up, is Puerto Rico part of the United States on his internet. So like he didn't have to do what he did now, but it shows at least that there's an open dialogue. So he actually apologized.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I didn't mean to offend. I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was true. I was like, yeah, it's not a problem, dude, but educate yourself. You know,
Right.
like this is not the Roaring Twenties. You know what I mean?
I mean, at least he took the time to actually look it up.
Yeah, which that's what I respect. I
Right.
respect because a lot of people be like, screw you.
Right.
Like, I know everyone's seen it on Instagram, TikTok, and this is a few years ago where you had these people were yelling at these Puerto Ricans saying, go back to your country." That's dumb. Like if you just took the time to learn, you wouldn't say that because it just doesn't make sense,
Right.
right? So
Be like telling somebody from, Alabama, go back to your country.
yeah, Alabama's own country. Don't
Well,
listen.
okay.
Alabama's some weird shit.
South Carolina. Oh, somewhere.
Eh,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying. A
yeah,
state
yeah,
to state.
yeah. But like they tell Hawaiians to go back. Like, no one says to a
Yeah.
Hawaiian, "Go
Go
back
back
to
to your
your
country.
country."
Exactly.
But Hawaii kind of is on the same boat as Puerto Rico as well.
Hmm.
Like, and I don't mean to shift over to Hawaii, but Hawaii is part of the United States, but they're kind of by themselves.
Hmm.
They're too far from America to kind of really deal with the issues in America. But being an island nation, it's better to be independent than it is to be like part of the US because you kind of get screwed. There's the Jones Act. So any territory of America cannot allow any cargo ship to dock at their piers unless it's an American ship. So when you're living in Puerto Rico, you're still restricted by the U.S. government, of course. Like you're like, so we have dollar stores, right?
Hmm.
So obviously, damn near everything from the dollar store it comes from China. You could get like a whole container of like pencils from China, and it'll cost. Um, by the way, I'm making these numbers up. It'll be like $5,000. Okay, so when it goes from China to Florida, they offload it and they just start shipping it out to where it has to go. $5,000 for that, you're good to go. Well, if you want to ship it to Puerto Rico or any other island that's a territory of the United States, they have to offload it and put it onto an American ship, which the cost of the American ship is damn near double. So something that we're paying $1 here for, they're paying $3-4
Hmm.
because of that restriction. So let me rephrase what I said before. It's either allow them to be independent or give them the same rights as a state,
Like a Hawaii.
like Hawaii,
Yeah.
but Hawaii is a state.
Right.
The only reason it's more expensive for Hawaii, again, islands are always going to be more expensive because islands can only do
So much on their own.
production.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do farming,
Hmm.
you could do some manufacturing. Because if I'm not wrong, I believe Puerto Rico is the number one exporter of catheters, medical catheters. Yeah, I may be wrong, but I know they do something with medical, and I'm pretty sure it's catheters. Yeah, please fact check me. But I know they do something really big with manufacturing for medical supplies. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what it was.
Pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceutical. Just says
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals.
Over 50% of all exports.
Mhm. So
Chemicals and chemical products,
yeah.
foodstuffs, computers, electronics, pharmaceuticals.
Hmm. So there you go, and it makes sense where Puerto Rico is located. It's on the ocean.
Yeah.
It's between America and South America. Transport is easy,
Hmm.
or rather, transport is easier because you don't have to get a ship all the way to like Texas,
Right.
or you don't got to get a ship all the way to the docks in New York or anything like that. You can just have it manufactured in Puerto Rico for lower cost because minimum wage and everything is lower in Puerto Rico.
Did they go off of the U.S. dollar?
Yes,
Okay.
they go for the US dollar. They don't have their own currency. I don't think they've had their own currency since the like 1600s.
Oh wow.
16 or 1700s. I'm again, I may be wrong. So back what I was saying before, around the same time with the Hayuya Revolution, there was talks of the Antillean Confederation. The Antillean Federation was essentially. Oh, you know what? No, this was in the time of the Spanish American War, I believe. Again, my time frame may be wrong, but the information is pretty solid. Uh, Essentially, nationalists from Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Dominican Republic, they were in talks about essentially creating their own like nation. It's just them three. Like the way we have the United Nations, a bunch of countries together. They were in talks of basically teaming up, for lack of a better term. And there was talks about bringing Jamaica in and whatnot, but obviously the Antillian Federation never came through.
Mhm.
Um, so you have a small nation that have been fighting for their independence since the 1800s. It's hard for a small nation. It's hard for any island. Like the Philippines went through it as well. It's hard for any nation to just, especially when you're an island nation of, I don't know, like not even 1/8 of the size of Spain. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
like not even close to the size of America. So all you have is hope. And the Puerto Rican flag was essentially a symbol of hope. Right. Our generation learned it to just fly the flag because you're proud of being Puerto Rican. But learn the history. You know, it's not just a pride thing. It's a sense of rebellion. It's kind of like, and this is gonna sound freaking wild, but it's the same. I don't know how to say the word in English. Sentido as the people who fly the Confederate flag.
Like the same idea of it.
Yeah, how they're like, well, this is part of our culture.
Yeah.
Granted, the Confederate flag is a different animal. I'm not trying to compare the Puerto Rican flag to the Confederate flag, but it's people who have the same idea. We'll find this because it's our heritage. The Confederate flag, which is not the real Confederate flag, but again, we can do another episode about the Confederate flag,
Okay.
but that one's gonna be a bitch because there's like 100 Confederate flags. Um, the Confederacy was its own country, and they ended up getting, for lack of a better term, reabsorbed into the United States. So obviously, that's a sense of rebellion. Their ideas were a little different
Hmm.
because Puerto Rico
Yeah.
just wanted to be left alone, and
Ulterior motives of
yeah, 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 yeah. The Confederate flag is they wanted the rights to own what is it called, living farm tools, for lack of a better term. I'm trying to be a little clean, but that's the main issue with that. But everyone who supports the Confederate flag, they're saying is part of our heritage, is part of our heritage, right? There's only been one really big negative uh, act with the Puerto Rican flag, which was the Hayuya Revolution. But at the same time, the the American Revolution started the same way.
Hmm.
They flew their flag and they're like, no, 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 we're taking our country. And all they did was, I can't say all they did. They did some crazy shit. Like I'm not gonna pretend like it was, like it wasn't. By the way, it wasn't an onslaught. I think it was like 5 people killed. That's it. But you did it to inspire hope in your people. You did it to inspire hope. You did it to be free, and that was the main reason for it. So our generation is a generation who we fly the flag because we don't know why. And I see this shit on Instagram. I see this shit on Facebook because I've been seeing a lot of posts about people like, you ready for the Puerto Rican Day Parade? You ready for the Puerto Rican Day Parade? And it is wild. God bless it. I love it. I wish I could just go back home for like a week just for the parade. It's freaking crazy. But now when someone questions you, oh, why you fly the flag? This is the reason we fly the flag. It's heritage. It's pride. It's we're doing something that they didn't allow us to do. And it's not harming anybody. Like we're not attacking people with the flag. We're flying the flag. Like I may I believe the Puerto Rican flag can fly the same height as the American flag when on the flagpole. The same as
Yeah.
the Texas flag. We're not a nation at war, so we can fly all our flags the same level. And if you have a flag on your door, you have a flag on your car, you have a flag anywhere, know why you fly it, know why you have it, know the struggle of the people who weren't allowed to do it and why they do it. You know, to be restricted for all those years to just own a flag, you want to own a part of home. You come from basically you get taken over by a country, right? And it was just like a transition, like no, now we run you. So you have no say in anything you were able to do. And then you kind of get screwed by the US government with the laws and like and everything they give you. Like if you're born in Puerto Rico, you can't if you live in Puerto Rico rather, you can't vote for president. But if you live in Puerto Rico and move to any of the states, you can vote for president. Just give us the same fucking
Why?
rights.
Why? Like, see, I've never understood that. Why wouldn't they just make Puerto Rico a state? I don't really understand the point of having a territory
So
when you could.
this is my theory on that because I have a theory on that too. We're more we're more we're more valuable to the U.S. as a territory because we bring in a lot of money to the U.S. We bring in an obscene amount of money to the
Mhm.
U.S. Considering like it's a travel hotspot. You know, it's we do the manufacturing, but also we're still paying the Puerto Rican government. Well, I mean, we're still paying the U.S. government like a loan that we owe them. We're still paying a loan that we owe them. So also understand that the people who took the loans were U.S. appointed governments. At least the beginning of the loans. I'm sure afterwards it changed out, but
Mhm.
the first people who took the loans was the people that the U.S. put there. So now you have the citizens now paying towards these loans. That's why minimum wage is so low out there. Like I'm not saying that the U.S. doesn't help us. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that the U.S. does not help Puerto Rico, but they'd offer better help if it was a state,
Right.
you know. But then you also have the same issues that happening in Puerto Rico are happening in Hawaii, and Hawaii is a state, but it's so out of the way. It's almost like every dollar that got to pass through the states passes through 48 before it hits Hawaii. So it kind of breaks down the dollar. You know,
Right.
we pay high taxes in Puerto Rico. Like people assume that Puerto Rico doesn't pay federal taxes, but they do.
Did it? So Puerto Rico pays American taxes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So they pay. So they get tax refunded, stuff like that.
Okay.
But you don't get the same
Mm.
tax refund you get over
But you
here.
don't have representation.
Yeah, there's represent. The U.S. government is supposed to be our representation, but they're kind of put on the back burner.
Hmm.
They kind of left independent. They're left independent for matters that don't matter. But for big things like again the Jones Act, repealing the Jones Act would help Puerto Rico drastically. Like that alone would be fucking insane. Like just the cost of just the cost of shipping and whatnot and cargo would decrease. You know, and that's the reason why a lot of Puerto Ricans are coming to the states. It's hard to live in a country where you're like a gallon of milk. How much we pay for a gallon of milk? Like $4.
Something like that.
I think a gallon of milk is like $8, $9. But Puerto Rico has cows. You know,
Yeah.
the cost of meat because again it's an island. There's only so much meat they can get, so they'd have to import meat. The cost of meat is through the roof in Puerto Rico. I think you can get sugar cane for cheap because you could just pick it out of your yard and shit. Yeah, but that's how true it is. It's a ghost. Um,
Getting spooky in here.
ooh. So we fly it in memory of independence. I guess that's kind of what it is. We haven't been independent since essentially the 1500s. Because in like the 1490s, 1492 or something, I think Columbus landed in Puerto Rico. And then from there, it was like, oh no, no, now we're gonna put our people in there.
Uh-huh.
And remember, he found that shit by mistake because he's fucking retarded. He's looking for India and he lands in Puerto Rico. That's why he called them the Indians. They're the Indians. No, what the fuck? Come on, And it's funny. It's funny, but it's just like no one thought. No, I don't think this seems right. We've been to
Uh-huh.
India. There's no way that this is India. Nope, nope, it's India. It's India. Right? Right? But then they just started taking things over.
Yeah.
They started taking things over, and then even like the term Taino is not the correct term technically. So there's multiple there's multiple names for the original people in Puerto Rico. We just use Taino, but I may be wrong. I believe Taino was the Arawak word for we're good, like we don't need you.
Mm.
So they were under the impression, oh, they're saying we're the Taino. No, we're saying like no, like we're
We
okay.
don't want what you're selling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. So and then you have like so I'm not gonna lie, the Taino bloodline is pretty watered down.
Mhm.
You have a lot of people who falsely say that they don't exist. That's obviously not true because I'm doing a podcast right now. But they kind of justify it as, oh no, it was wiped out. It was wiped out. The bloodline is still there. Like there's some people like 60% of the bloodline of the Tainos, right? And if it's gonna be that way, then we should also get. Let me not get into that. Never mind. Let me not get into that. Let me
All
not
right,
get into that.
let's get into the sterilizations that you were talking about.
Okay. So
What is that about?
okay, I gotta look that one up because off the top of my head, I do not remember. But it had something to do with obviously they were doing it under the guise of population control,
Mhm.
but they weren't telling the citizens. They weren't telling the women. I think that they were telling the women that this was just an immunization.
Uh-huh.
Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Shoot, because I gotta look that because they were saying it was an immuniz. It was. That's why I don't want to talk about this. This one's gonna be. This one is long. Hold on. All right, we're back. So it was called La Operación. So essentially, so I got this from zinproject.org. So Puerto Rican women and their families were promised success and stability after they underwent La Operación, which is just the operation
Yeah.
or sterilization. These efforts undercut the agency of women over their own bodies as they may have been drawn to the procedure and its false promises out of economic necessity and social pressure. The operation was marketed as a solution to poverty, and many women thought that once their tubes were tied, they could be untied. This was not the case, and they ended up losing their reproductive rights to give birth to more children. There's a documentary about it. It's literally called La Operación. I think they have it on YouTube. You can find it. Obviously, it gets into deeper conversation than I do, and it actually has interviews with some women who underwent
Uh-huh.
the
S-
operation.
So was it was an optional thing,
It was an optional thing, but they optioned it
a
like
misleading.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was under the impression that they gave them La Operación like as like, hey, this is immunizations, and I think I confused that with what happened with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I confused
Uh-huh.
with the Tuskegee Airmen, where the U.S. government was, I think, was it sterilizing black soldiers, something like that,
Something like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that. Again, I'm trying to go off my memory. It's not
I
great.
know that they were running drug experiments on people in like Mississippi or Alabama or something like that.
Yeah, but that wasn't with the
That's
that
not
wasn't with,
that.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was the LSD experiments. They were, again, this is a little off topic, but we'll bring into it. Who cares?
Bring
Uh
it around.
yeah, right. The LSD experiments where they were trying to find, I I think they're trying to look for like a truth serum,
Hmm.
and then they end up turning to like what does LSD does to the human brain. Uh, Whitey Ford, the mobster, like the gangster, he he claims, and again, I obviously I didn't look up the documents that he went through those experiments, and throughout his whole life, he said it just fucked with his brain. Like, but by the way, I'm a proponent for mushroom use. I think that's fantastic. I think things like that are good for your brain, done in moderation.
If you use them correctly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
LSD is essentially synthetic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Obviously, anything synthetic is going to be a problem. Look at when they made K2. I don't know if you remember K2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
it's
Yeah.
just crack.
Yeah.
Basically, it's supposed to be synthetic weed, and basically everyone was a zombie. So maybe the intentions were good, but the studies were not. Which is again most medical procedures. Like again,
Right.
we can get started on that too. But heroin was
S-
invented to stop opium.
So were they doing it under the guise of you'll work harder,
No,
or just
no, it was done under the guise that if you're temporarily not having kids, and again, this is the 40s.
like they were trying to do it as
Yeah.
like this is birth control. You can do this and not have kids, but then
Yes.
later you can do it
So
back.
it wasn't explicitly told that they can have kids again. Like
Hmm.
one, but at the same time, this is a poor nation, and you
Right.
just tell them, no, no, this is gonna be better for you. Like you're like, okay, I guess it's a temporary fix. Like, okay, we can do this until we get up on our feet, and then now I'm good to go. I'm gonna have my kids. I'm gonna go back and get it undone, and you can't.
Okay.
So it's like going to the Texas abortion thing here. Like you, they made abortions illegal in Texas, so it's like they're taking away a woman's right, but they're straight up saying, no, no, you can't do it here. In Puerto Rico, they just kind of pushed it aside as like, oh, this is gonna help you. This is gonna help you, and
And just did it under the table
yeah,
without
kind of, yeah.
telling you their full intention.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and it's not that they told, so they told the full intention, but they didn't tell the repercussions.
Right.
And that's the biggest issue. Like, give someone their full options. Let them know, hey, if we do this, you're not going to have other kids. And the ones who are mostly affected were the poorer women,
Hmm.
because you, if let's say you have two kids already, right? And now that you're overtaken by the US, like the money isn't flying the way it was.
Hmm.
Something you paid, and again, this is the 40s. I'm just throwing random numbers there. Something you paid $1 for, well, now it's three, and now you have two kids, right? And it's just like, well, how am I going to support these kids?
Right.
Because I don't mean to cuss, but I'm gonna cuss. People are gonna fuck. You know what I mean? Like your family, you're gonna fuck. Like you and your husband, you're gonna fuck.
Right.
Let's not pretend like that's not gonna happen. You know. So
So why make it harder having another kid
exactly,
when you could take a break, press pause,
yeah.
and
And,
then
and unfortunately, it wasn't a pause.
yeah.
So and then again, I keep going back to the flag again. This is why you fly the flag. You fly the flag for the people who aren't here anymore, in memory of them. Like, yeah, no, I don't know what the hell that is. It's all the time. Um, the flag is your heritage. The flag is your history. The flag is not in rebellion to the United States anymore, but I like to see it as a reminder to the US what they did. You know, like the US is still making money off Puerto Rico. You know, let us fly our flag. Shut the fuck up. Stop asking these fucking questions. Fly the fucking flag.
Mhm.
And if you're Puerto Rican and you're flying the flag, know why you fly it. At least have some support. So when someone starts asking you random questions,
You have something
yeah,
to fire back.
yeah, it's not even to fire back, just
No,
to share
no, you
knowledge.
know what I mean. Like
Hmm.
to give back instead of just saying it's just what we do. You
Yeah,
know.
you go, yeah, we do this, we do this. Okay, why do you do it?
Um,
This is why I do it.
yeah.
Oh, because my parents did it. Okay, why did your parents do it? Because their parents did it. Perfect. Why did their parents do it? Because they were not allowed to. Now that we have the freedom to fly the flag, we're proud of flying our flag. We're proud. Jesus Christ,
You're plowed.
we're that's why they did sterilizations. Um, that's fucked up. But we're proud of where we come from. We're proud of what we started with and where we became today. Like, if anyone's been to Puerto Rico, the place is fucking gorgeous. Even after the damn hurricanes we were getting, even after the years of freaking earthquakes, which was wild. My whole life, I've never heard of earthquakes in Puerto Rico. In the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, there was earthquakes every day. I think it was,
Wow.
and it's just like it's like the underdog showing that they're still alive and kicking. That's the best explanation. It's the underdog showing they're still alive and kicking. So when you fly your flag, especially the Puerto Rican Day Parade in June 11th, fly that shit hard as fuck. But let them fucking know. Anyone who asks you a question, why you do it, let them fucking know. We do this shit because y'all didn't fucking let us, and now we're here. And now we're here. Now you can't stop us. We're like bed bugs. We just keep going. Fly that shit hard. Fly that shit. I finna get a fucking Puerto Rican tattoo. Another one. This one is alright.
Let's go right now.
Ah, fuck it. Don't fucking threaten me with a good time, dog. Shit. Fly that shit with pride. Let motherfuckers know. Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican. Yeah. You think you kick us? We're fucking coming right back. Let let these motherfuckers know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't mean to go all this wild towards the end of the podcast. I really did not. But it's true, man. Like, know what you're doing. Know why you're flying it. Have pride in why you're fucking flying it. We didn't have that shit. Our parents, our grandparents, they didn't have the luxury that we have to fly our flag, to let people know, hey, we're Puerto Rican. Be proud of your nation. Yeah, because you were restricted in your own fucking town. And we got that shit. We got that shit back. We have it. We have the right to fly our flag, and nobody could tell us a motherfucking thing. They can't tell you shit. We could fly our fucking flag everywhere we go. We could put the shit in the back of our cars. We could put that shit on your fucking. You could tattoo it to your chest. You could have that shit flying with the American flag. Let these motherfuckers know why you do it. We do this shit for the people who couldn't do it. We do this shit for the people who went to jail, who fucking were beaten because they just wanted to show their fucking flag. Anyone asks you, don't let anybody fucking stop you. Don't let anybody say fucking anything about you flying your flag. Because at the end of the fucking day, we earned it. Us as a fucking small island country, we earned the right to fly our fucking flag. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. you know?
I mean, if you don't know why you do it, give it a couple more generations, and nobody will know why you do it.
And that's the biggest thing. So
I could tell that's why you're wanting to talk about it, is
yeah,
so that people know why you do it.
because like my oldest son knows he's Puerto Rican. My youngest doesn't really understand what that means.
Hmm.
So like so my oldest was pretty much raised in New York till he was like, I don't know what, like 6 or 7. We got here when my youngest was 2 months old. We lived in San Antonio when there was like 4 Puerto Ricans and I was three of them. You know, so like it's my job as a father. It's my job as a Puerto Rican. It's my job as somebody proud of where my family comes from, proud of what we did, what we know, to teach him what he is, to teach him what his heritage is, to teach him, unfortunately, the struggles that we dealt with in Puerto Rico. It's my job to do that. And it's everyone who listens to this podcast that is Puerto Rican, is your job to do this too. Know why you do what you do and teach them. Teach all your kids, teach your kids' kids. Because it's going to be a time when, just like you said, no one knows. No one knows why we fly it. If you try to search the things that I was speaking about on this podcast, if it's any .gov site, they really clean it up.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. History's depends on who writes the book.
Yeah,
Whoever writes the book gets to choose what history is.
yeah, exactly. And we don't teach. We have a tendency to not teach the negative things that the U.S. has done to other countries. But it's the same in Spain.
Mhm.
Spain doesn't teach the negative fucked up shit that they did. Germany does, but I mean,
I mean, you kind of have
you
to.
kind of have to.
I think that was part of the agreement.
Yeah, I think it was too. It's like, hey, don't do that again.
Yeah,
No, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Leave them alone. But
that dog.
but yeah, like teach your children. And hey, if I'm wrong, anybody, send me a message on Instagram. Send me a freaking send me a message. Send me a fucking comment on my Instagram at DONGIJO583. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Because the point of this is to learn something.
Yeah, but
So
not
if
just
if you're incorrect, you'd like to learn it. Be more,
exactly. And what if the thing that I'm not incorrect and you didn't know that? Like someone in your family didn't know that. So now you have something that you can share with your children, you can share with your friends, you can share with your family. Um, I spoke to my uncle who was born in Puerto Rico in like the 60s, right? But he came to the States in like 60, he was like 5 years old. So I don't remember what year it was, but he came to the States when he was 5 years old. And he didn't even know that it was illegal to fly the flag. And yet he was in Puerto Rico at the time where it was still a crime. His sisters were born in the 40s, so they definitely went through it. They didn't go through la operación because they have children, but they went through the time where it was being promoted, it was being shared, it was being advocated for, and thank God they didn't go through it because my family wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here to share this information, to share the pride that we have for our people. Like everyone is so anti their own national pride. Uh, Unless you're 1940s German, I think I, I think you could be proud. And also,
I mean, I'm sure there's still a few.
yeah, 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 Argentina. We could talk about that one another day too.
Let's get into it.
By the way, everybody, just Google Nazi city in Argentina. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's
It's a good read.
a wild
It's a
read.
wild read.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, man. Like, if nobody likes what I'm saying, I understand. I get it. It's hard to listen to, especially when I'm rambling. But do your own research. Take what I'm telling you here. Take whatever information you can, pick up bits and pieces, but do your own research and use this to share with your people. Use this to share with your children. Use this to share with your parents that don't even know. Like my grandmother, she's gone. And I wish when I was younger, I was so like devoted to this, I guess, movement. I didn't know. I just knew we flew the flag. That's all I knew. Like I wish she was still here to explain these things to me, to let me know what happened while she was over there. Cause she was born 1925, so she was she was born 20 years after the U.S. or like 20 something years after the U.S. had already taken them over. Her parents were alive for when Spain was over Puerto Rico, and then the U.S. was. So they saw the transition. My grandparents' parents, my grandfather was born 1920, and his mom was 1850. So like they seen it. They seen it. And unfortunately, we didn't learn that. They didn't teach us that. So it's up to us as the new generation of Puerto Ricans to learn our history, to learn what we're fighting for, to learn why we're flying our flag, to learn, to just not even just to learn, but just to pass it down to our generations. Because in 20 years, no one's going to know why we fly it, just like you said. In 20 years, no one's going to know the beatings that Puerto Rico took in the hands of two governments, not just two governments. And I'm not saying overthrow the government. I have to make sure I make that very
Yeah, we're
explicitly
not
clear.
advocating for a revolution,
No, no. But
but just understand.
we're advocating for understanding.
Yeah,
We're advocating just know what you do. That's my biggest thing. Just know what you do. Know why you do it. I guess that's it.
Sounds good to me.
There you go. All right, so this is Gijo Ortiz. Again, follow me on Instagram at DONGIJO583. I'm here with my boy Cam. You want to share anything?
Follow me on Instagram, the underscore Cameron Smiley with a K. Kameron.
All right, man. Hey, y'all have a good night and read a fucking book.